as a creative, there's just so much stuff going on. And I feel like, especially as a Christian creative, I feel like God is putting so much vision and so much passion in us at once that until I literally made God my business partner, I was so like, I guess you really could call it like procrastinating and unfocused, because there's so many ideas, and I want to do this and I want to write this, but nothing is actually being executed until I really put God at the center and made him like, okay, listen, I'm not moving until like my business partner is like in agreement with me.
Hey, I know that you're a biblical entrepreneur, and I know one thing about entrepreneurs is we're trying to find a place where we can get the ideas out of our head into a community of people who think just like us, who think positive and not negative thoughts about our dreams and our aspirations. And I just want to let you know that there is a place like that. There is a community like that, and it's called the Morning Meetup, right? This Morning Meetup, we're meeting every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're getting together in the morning and we're reading through some books, right, that are elevating our mindset. Not only that, but we're being coached by high-level earners, high-level entrepreneurs who are actually pouring value back into us that's helping to make our businesses to scale up, right? And so the best thing, though, is you get a chance to taste and see whether this community is for you for just $1. That's just for $1. I know for me, I've already received a return back on my investment. And so if you want an opportunity to see whether this community is for you, just click the link in the description and come join us at the Morning Meetup. Hey, how you guys doing? Again, this is Lionel Mosby Jr., your host of Lion and the Lambo. And you know, we talk about biblical entrepreneurship, impact, and true success. And I'm so excited today to have another friend, like a real friend, right, on the show. My good friend, Annecey, Cadet. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
Man, I'm so excited just to have you here on the show, to be able to hear, to be able to learn about your journey and your path as an entrepreneur, right? You know, but before we jump into it, I just want to ask you, like, you know, we're getting the podcast. We only a couple episodes in, but for you, right? How are you when it comes to podcasts? Do you have any favorite podcasts that you listen to, right, as you're driving on the road or sitting at home? Have you been kind of caught by this podcast bug?
I'll be honest, I actually have. I think I started really getting into it about COVID, like so typical, but just listening to, I think one of the ones I started with was Therapy for Black Girls. I really liked that one. And then this other one I listened to is kind of a little bit out of the box, but it's called Ideas Digest. It's an Adventist podcast that has like just interesting very left versus very right opinions on things, and it definitely stretches you a little bit, and sometimes you're like, I don't agree with that, but it's all biblically based and tries to be like, yeah. So those are a few that I listen to like almost weekly.
Oh man, that's awesome. See, that's what we do here at Lion and Lambo, right? We're giving y'all some other alternatives to check out, right? Therapy for Black Girls, that actually sounds really awesome, right? Ideas Digest, I'm definitely going to check that one out, right? You know, and it's so awesome to see all these different ways that people can, you know, really present and put a message out, right? That may, you know, be able to bless the world, right? And have people to be able to just listen to on their free time. So man, that's really, really exciting. So again, man, we're here at the Lion and the Lambo, and you know, we're all about biblical entrepreneurship. Our goal here, right, is just to dismantle your fear of making money, right, and of having impact through business. You know, it seems like in different, you know, church communities and spaces all around, there's some people who really have this thought process that when it comes to money or finances, right, the more you have, the eviler you are, almost, right? You know what I'm saying? And if I have too much, right, then that could mean, man, I'm getting far from Jesus or far from God. And we just want to help you to understand that, man, look, this thing is just a tool. You know, it's just like having two trucks. You wouldn't say having an extra truck is bad for your business. No, you say, you know what? I'm able to impact more people, right? I'm able to, you know, do more jobs that can help more people to whatever it is that I'm doing in life, right? And that's the same thing with funds and finance. It's just a tool, right? And so we want to really help you to dismantle that fear, right? So you can really have the true impact that you have, right? And as we getting into it, The first thing I want to ask you, is if we had to, ask your friends and family and say, who is Annie, right? What would they actually tell us? What would they tell us about who you are?
So this question is actually so funny to me because last week a friend of mine, Pastor Michelle Moda, she actually was asked this question, and it's so funny because she said that her answer was, "Oh, Annecey is a Christian hustler. She gonna get her money and she gonna get it the godly way, but she gonna get it." And I could not stop laughing because I mean, amen, that the Christian is before the hustler, but definitely, like, I would say that I'm someone who is biblically very driven. Like, I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of things that God is like working on me, and I'm just trying to put them all in line because there's so much stuff going on.
That's awesome. So how are you able to then decide on what you're gonna go after, right? Because I can understand when you have the person who's very creative like that and they have a lot of ideas shooting in their head, right? For some people they're in that space and they end up not doing anything, right? Because it's like, I just got too much stuff going on. So how do you buckle down then and focus and say, okay, this is the idea that I'm gonna go after, right, and get accomplished?
Right. That is a great question. And if I'm honest, I feel like I figured that out almost this past year. I feel like, again, like you said, as a creative, there's just so much stuff going on. And I feel like, especially as a Christian creative, I feel like God is putting so much vision and so much passion in us at
Mm,
once that until I literally made God my business partner, I was so like, I guess you really could call it like procrastinating and unfocused because there's so many ideas and I want to do this and I want to write this, but nothing is actually being executed until
mm,
I really put God at the center and made him like, okay, listen, I'm not moving until like my business partner is like in agreement with me. And so, God, I know you want to do X, Y, and Z, but what order do you want it in? What do you want me working on
mm,
now? What do you want me pushing now? What is a idea for 10 years from now? And what is an idea for right this moment that I need to be done by X time? And so until I feel like I figured that out this year,
mm,
because I very much was just all over the place until I really honed in on like, okay, it's God.
mm.
God is with it with me, not just me, him putting these ideas and me executing, but him going on the road with me.
And that's a big difference. I can see what you're saying, right? So it's different if, okay, I've given something, right, and then now, hey, go do what you got to do. When it's like, no, this is the thing, and then like, all right, let's work this out together. So I mean, in that space and in that world, right? So can you flesh that out for us though? Because for many people, they're saying, well, God has given me this idea, but like this whole concept of God as my business partner, right? Like, how does that work? What do you mean by God is your business partner? So can you flesh that out? Because that's good, you know what I mean? But for some people who can't grasp that concept, can you break that down for us?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I can try. I think for me, at least from my own perspective, God as my business partner really means so as I'm getting clients in, I really, when I tell you, I am prayerful. When I'm getting a
Mm,
new job, I'm fasting. When
mm,
I am deciding like to move, when I'm deciding about other ideas, like again, I'm fasting. I actually literally last night, today-ish, I just finished another week-long fast because
amen.
I'm working on like doing some other stuff and figuring things out. And I think it's really easy in this world. Like we have social media, we have things that you're getting such left in comments. You're scrolling and you're like, oh, God wants you to do this. You need to see this. And then in the next thing, you see a post that's like, oh, God wants you to slow down. You need to just relax. You need to take your rest and stuff. And
All right.
when you have so many fat thing avenues coming in at you, it's very easy to not really hear the exact voice of God. And so
Mm,
in that, I feel like one of the things like when I fast, I do my best that although my business is social media based as well, I do my best that when I'm fasting, whichever type of fast I'm doing, I'm also fasting from social media, because it
Mm,
can just be like you have so much stuff going at you. When I fast, I try to be intentional about who I'm talking to during the fast. So I'm doing my best not to be talking to clients all the time, talking to this, like, so that's what I mean when I say God is my business partner. It means like me really kind of like closing my ears to what the world, what other people have to say, and really just focusing on like reading my Bible, focusing on talking to God, my prayer life, my devotional life. I try to get all of that straight, so I'm hearing from the one that I need to
mm.
versus like so many other avenues.
Man, that is so awesome, and I think that right there is just a gem and a nugget that literally is probably going to help so many people out in the first place, right? Who are who are entrepreneur, business owner right now, those who are even trying to get into the space, right? To make God our business partner, and I love the concept of how the Bible, right, has so many business principles in it, and so when we look at so many things in the scriptures, it connects and contrasts so well together, right?
Right.
And so when we're talking about God being our business partner, is in the same sense of us, if we're at church and saying, man, God needs to be your friend, right? He
Right.
needs to be your confidant. He needs to be your counselor, right? And if he counsels me as far as my relationships, if he counsels me as far as, how I should raise my children, if he counsels me as far, then why would he not counsel me in my business, right?
Right.
It's literally the same concept, but in order to do that, we got to have a relationship with them, right?
Right.
And sometimes you're gonna have those business meetings where like, look, we're gonna have a week where we just focus on our plan for the year. And the same thing with me saying, look, we're gonna come in fast, and I'm gonna just talk with God this week to be able to get everything, so we're all on the same page, right? So I know His vision, so I can tell Him what my vision is, and we can basically work that out. So that when we come out to the world, all right, this is what we're doing, right? You know what I mean? So,
Right.
man, I love that concept. That was awesome. That was awesome. So, before we move forward, right, and get into the business, right, I actually want to go back now, right? So, I want us to kind of scale back, right, into your life and experience, right, and just kind of
Okay.
get an understanding of what led you right into this direction. So, where now today you can talk about, man, God is my business partner, right? You know what I mean? So when you talk about, earlier on in your life, maybe with your family, maybe your church community, a religious community, what was the view of money that you had earlier on in your life? What was your view of even entrepreneurship earlier on in your life?
That's a great question again. So for me, um, I come from a higher middle class family. Both of my parents are actually immigrants from Haiti, but they
Mm,
came here, they went to college, and they both have they're successful in their medical professions. So I actually have seen my parents manage multiple households, have not just our home, but second homes and things like that. The ironic thing about it is that my parents didn't teach me much about money. They,
okay.
they, I have seen them manage. I've seen them not struggle. I've seen them be lenders, not borrowers. But ironically, that was not. I don't know if it was the culture, but they didn't do a great job passing that on and educating and walking us through as they did it. And so for my parents, the huge push was education. You don't have to have a job, you don't have to do this, but you have to go to school and you have to get a job in the medical profession. Like that's what they wanted from us. So
Mm,
from a young age, I wanted to be a doctor. At one point, I wanted to be a surgeon. Then I actually went to nursing school.
okay.
Turns out like I was in nursing school and I feel like I became a Christian at around that time. And I remember asking God, I remember I went to church and there was a service about not just bringing God along on our plans, but asking God about what we're supposed to be doing.
Mm,
And I believe I was in my second semester of nursing school, doing really well. And I remember just being like, oh, okay. Going home and being like, God, do you want me to be a nurse? Like, I mean, I feel like I would do a great job serving for you as a nurse,
ooh,
but do you want me to be a nurse? And very clearly, God was like, no, that's not
wow.
it. And I'll be honest, I tried to ignore it for a whole other semester because I'm like, it took me multiple attempts to get into nursing school. I finally got in. I'm excelling. And my thing was, God, like you're not in this, but I'm getting good grades. You're blessing me. So how is this not what you want me to do? And God is like, okay, you're my daughter. I'm gonna bless you, but that's not my actual plan for you. Like, I mean, I could use you in that field, but that's not what I want you to do. And so after going back and forth with it, I actually left nursing school. Um, I had always loved kids. And I just very much, especially because I left nursing school, but really without a plan of what the next step was. I just knew that it wasn't that. And so
Right.
I left nursing school and I was like looking around, looking for jobs, and everything was, oh, 7:15 minimum wage, like earnings. And I'm like, okay, that's not a lot of money. At that point, I lived in Texas on my own because I came to Texas for nursing school from New York. And I'm like, okay, I need a well-paying job. I need something that's going to keep me afloat. Because my parents were very angry that I left nursing school. Very angry. And not even just that, but left nursing school without a clear plan of what the next step was. But it was just God and I just kind of moving. And so that's when I found childcare and I began to be a nanny. And that really was how that came about. And just I think for me it was like a like back and forth because my parents, so I saw them have money. I saw them do really well in that. But then the church, I realized in while being a nanny that there are actually some really high paying 6, 7 figure nannies, things that I didn't know. But then I'm at this battle with, okay, my parents wanted me to do the medical route. I didn't. But then also the church teaches me that oh, if you're a wealthy man, it's easier for you to get harder for you to get into heaven than to go through the head of a needle. And I'm like, oh man, like there's this back and forth of, okay, I guess I think I'm supposed to be comfortable, but not super. But then God calls me to be a lender, not a borrower. So definitely I feel like there was a back and forth of not really knowing that, okay, God wants me to be okay, but how okay?
Right. So you felt that tug and that pull, and you were in the middle of and at the end of the day, right? Ultimately, and I know so many other people resonate. Look, I resonate with you. I've been in that exact position where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, God, like, what am I supposed to do then? Right? Like, I really want to impact the world. I really want to like be able to do so much, but like, how can I when I'm in this position? I always think of Isaiah 58 as something I remind people of so often. I say, it says, bring the poor that are cast out to thy house. I'm saying, how are we going to bring somebody to a house we don't have? How are we going to feed them with food we can't afford, or we can't grow ourselves, right? Or whatever, right? How are we going to clothe them when we don't have the expendable income to be able to give them something, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't just add up to me, right? You know what I mean? And so there got to be some kind of misunderstanding. But what you're saying is so real. There's this kind of tug and war and pull between what is right, what is wrong, and at the end of the day, it's really because the desire is to please God in all things. The
Yeah.
desire is for God to be honored and glorified. We ain't trying to lose out to heaven for you know what I'm saying, for 4 bedrooms instead of 3. Like,
Right.
nah, look, I got a mansion coming, so I don't want to
Amen.
make that mistake, right? You know what I mean?
Amen.
But I want to ask you though, right? What was that? Because you said, man, I did not have a plan when I left nursing school. I knew God said no, but I still stayed in nursing school a little bit longer, right? That's the first thing,
Yeah.
right? What was it that made you finally say, all right, God, like, let me leave this alone, right? Because you were there, you knew he said no, but you continued, right, in that
Right.
process. And I know you said, man, I had put time in. It took me so long to get into nursing school. I was doing great with my classes. It was like, in all intents and purposes, right? Anybody looking on the outside in would say, yeah, Annie, like, man, nursing is your thing. Obviously, God wants you to be in that area because, hey, he got you in finally, right? You're doing great in the classes, right? Everything is smooth sailing. So what was it that finally was that push to get you over the hump to say, all right, it's time for me to get out of here? Because you didn't have a plan, right?
Right.
So what was that thing, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the reasons why I stayed in nursing school so longer is really just to please my parents. And I
Mm,
think that it really was like I just didn't want to disappoint them. Like it's always been pushed into, me and my sister as well, that our parents came here and worked so hard and never expected us to have after school jobs and things like that so that we could go to school and be on this very concrete plan. And I just didn't want to disappoint. Like my parents came here from a different country. They worked so
right.
hard, and the phone call to call them and tell them, it was just, I was dreading that. I think for me it was just my first journey into being able to honor my parents, but then honor God more. And I
Mm,
think that that was my first real lesson in that, because my parents are great people. They're women, and a woman and a man of God that I truly do respect. But I think that for me, it really was when I had to realize that they want what's best for me on this earth as far as what they can see, because they don't want me
mhm,
to struggle. They don't want, they have a way that they want me to look and carry myself and things like that up on this earth. But God sees so much further. And my parents are seeing what they just want me comfortable the next few years and 10 years and etc. But God sees the beginning, middle, and end of why he wants me to leave nursing school and the impact that I'm gonna make. And so I think it was just that of learning that hard balance between, yes, honoring my parents, but before them, I have to honor God.
mm,
And it
mm.
wasn't until I really realized that I was gonna ride out in nursing school, but yeah, God had different plans.
Nah, that's such a good point, right? And that realization that you have, right? And sometimes when we were younger, we don't really grasp it as clear that the reality is our parents don't hate us. It's not that they
Right,
want to control our lives. They don't want not that they want to tell us what to do. It's really that they've been through life and they want the best for us. You know what I mean?
right,
They want us to live comfortable. They don't want us to struggle. Like this is the reality, right? And we
right,
see the same thing when God presents himself as our father through his word, right? God desires the same for us too, as in that role as a parent toward us as his children. And so, it's great to have that understanding, and understand our parents' character. So I mean, there may be people out there who are in that same situation right now. You have to realize, right, the character of your parents is that they love you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And you have to really wrestle with God to know what direction he's leading you in. And once you know that, you have to know that your parents, right, who also love you and love God, are going to understand, right, at some point. Maybe not immediately, right?
right,
You know what I mean? But like you're saying, right, at some point we all individually now have to start making choices and decisions based on our personal relationship with Jesus. And
right,
that all the time isn't easy for other people to understand. It ain't even easy for us to understand. Let's be clear, okay?
right,
You know what I'm saying? Because Jesus, I ain't have no plan when I left nursing school, okay? I didn't know
right.
what I was supposed to do. But then you said I loved kids, right? I love
Mhm.
kids, so I knew I had a passion and desire for them. But now help us to walk us through the steps of how you found the work of a nanny as something that you say, this is something that I can not only do, but something that could supply me with the funds I need. That's not bare minimum. These minimum
Right.
wage jobs that I'm seeing that's available to me. What walk us through that process, help us understand. Because there's some people who heard you say that and say, nanny, like 6 figures, like hold on, like how do these things work together? So you kind of unveil, right, that industry that you came into contact with, for those who may not know.
Right. So I think the first thing that I want to mention is, or like the first point that comes to mind is that along the path, even when you don't understand, God is really putting people on the path that are really going to help you elevate.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, so my first one of my first jobs was I was actually babysitting, because there's a difference between a babysitter and a nanny. I was babysitting one child.
What's
Um,
the difference? What's it mean? What's the difference between babysitter and
sure.
nanny?
So a babysitter is someone who is just taking physical care of the child and the child's needs. And so a babysitter would, whether you can be a babysitter working 40 hours, but a babysitter is just taking care of the child. So they're just taking care of the physical needs and making sure the child is safe, changing, feeding. A nanny takes care of the overall health and wellness of the child. That
Mm,
includes, um, also, it can be described more also as a mommy's helper. And so they are doing all things that entail of the child's care. That includes the laundry and folding of the clothes. If need be,
mm.
taking the child to the doctor if the parents are not available, having all the medical information needed, taking children to extracurricular activities. So they're
Wow.
literally I don't even want to say like they're parents when the parent is not there, because being a parent is a whole other thing, but
Right.
they are well-rounded, taking care of your child in every way that a parent
Mm.
would have.
Got you. Got you.
And
Yeah,
so,
that's
yeah,
huge. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a difference. And so I started off just taking care of one child who I was just babysitting. I was working like 40-hour weeks, but just taking care of her. They would actually drop her to my home and I would take care of her. That was actually the beginning of mentally my business, because the little girl, I had just become Adventist at the time.
Mhm.
And the mom was a single mom and she really needed my help. And so she came to me and she said, Saturday is the day at my job that I work the most. I need to work Saturdays. So can we work something out? And I said, I prayed about it and I was just like, I cannot have you pay me on Saturdays, but I can take your child. The only thing is that I go to church on Saturdays. So she's going to church with me. You don't have to pay me, but the baby's going to be at church. I serve at church. I'm going to be there. And she was like, that's fine. And so I literally was how old? 19,
Okay.
19 years old, having this carrier. The baby was 4 months at the time, bringing this carrier to church with me, sitting in the pews with this Caucasian baby. Everybody's like, that's not your child. Like, where did you get this child from? But it was my first step in doing my job, but also incorporating ministry, which at the time I didn't know. She was my first job. I
Mm.
also at the time started working because for some reason I felt like the one child was really easy for me. I'm like, I'm doing great at this. And so I actually found a second family that was willing to drop their child off and didn't mind me taking care of both of them at once. So that was when I started managing two at once. But one of them was going to church with me. And she began going to church with me 4 years. You guys know her as Carly. So that's how Carly started. And it became like from went to a job to meet her, me not even being paid to have her anymore, to me starting to see the light of God open in her eyes and her starting to learn these songs and me dropping her at children's church. And her mom wasn't a Christian, and God using her songs, her singing these children's songs to her mom beginning to be like, like, she's different. Like, what's up? Like, my child is singing these hymns. My child won't eat without praying first. Like, what is going on here? And that was the beginning of what is today, just on a lesser scale. And in that time, I went from taking care of two children that were separate families to then having the experience that my next job was me taking care of twins. And that lady, she was the first, when I say that God put people on our path, they were actually Muslim, I believe.
Mhm.
And they respected my Sabbath so much, to the point like on Fridays, they were like, Annie, it's 3. Like, I'm rushing home to get you out on time so that you have some space between your Sabbath and this and that. And the
Wow.
mom, who at the time was a doctor, when I I had very little confidence at the time. And so when I went and positioned for the job, I think I worked for them about a year and a half before I was like, you know what, like I'm starting to do more work for them, et cetera, et cetera. And so I went, if I'm honest, I believe I was making like $10 an hour at the time, a little bit, like a few dollars more than minimum wage. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask for 11. I might ask for 12, and then I'm gonna ask for, like, she might bring it down to 11, like thinking I'm really doing something. And then the mom, when I sat down and did that with her, she was like, Annie, you do X, Y, and Z for us. You're asking for 12? Like, she was like, think that over and think that over and ask again tomorrow. So I'm like, okay. All right. And so the next day I went to her and I'm like, okay, can I have 15? And she's like, so she sat me down, we're talking, and she's like, Annie, I want you to realize what you bring to the table. Without you, our family is in chaos. You bring stability, you bring just love, you bring control for our children, you discipline them in a loving way. Sweetie. So she like talked to me like that, and she said, so you asked for 15, we're gonna actually give you 20. But I want you to realize that this is your avenue, and you need to start, like, I don't know what she said at the time. This was maybe 8 years ago, but she essentially was like, you have the grounds to say with your chest what you want and the cost that you want. And you need to, when these families are petitioning for you, you need to make them realize all that you bring to the table. And she was the first client who, mind you, she definitely could have just taken my little 12. She offered me $8 more than what I was asking, because of the fact that she was the first person to realize, no, not even being a Christian, but like, God is doing something in you in this, because our children are different because of you in their life. And she was the first person to really do that. And so God really just put the right people on my path for me to start realizing my value, for me to start realizing, okay, this isn't just an after school job. God is doing something right in this moment. And I think one of the things that for me was that because I was out of school at that time, maybe 23, 24, no degree, I started getting very insecure about that fact. And, I don't have anything, like I'm not bringing much to the table. I don't have a child development degree, things like that. And so that was where my worth was coming from, because I'm like, God, I don't have this, so I can't ask for this. And that was one of the first families, along with others came along, but one of the first families to make me realize, like, God has purpose for you in this moment. It's not with the degree that the purpose is coming. It's not with you at your ultimate final career that the purpose is coming. God is doing something right here. And because he's in this, you can ask for what you deserve, because you can, because you're his daughter, because you bring value without all the extra stuff. And so that really was one of my formative moments of being like, all right, God, like, I think you're doing something bigger here than what I even think that it is.
Man, powerful, right?
Yeah.
There's a question that I try to ask every guest, right? And the question is, what impact have you had on some individual, right, that has helped you to realize that your business is about more than making money? I don't think I need to ask the question. I don't think I need to ask at this point, right? Because it's clear, right? When you see that something you do, that the child that you're taking care of, you say, the parent is saying, man, what's different about my child, right? And they're realizing, it's the songs, it's the community, it's the, I'm like, wow, that's evidence right in front of you, right, of the impact that you're having. And I love how God, like you say, places people in our path and direction to help us to realize our worth. A lot of times we're tying our worth to different things, right? And it was one course that I took before that had to really retrain my mindset and thought process to say, look, you don't base the value of your product or your service, your gift, right, based on just what you even think, right? Because we many times misunderstand our value. You're saying, man, this is a $12 value. You know what I'm saying? I can push for 12. And yet somebody outside of you is saying you're out of your mind to only ask for $12, right?
Right.
But what is the benefit? What is the blessing that we bring? And this is a lesson that the gospel teaches us, right? The gospel is the most valuable thing in the universe because it solves all the problems of the universe.
Amen.
And every true business solves a problem, right? And
Right.
so this family was able to list out to you many problems that your service, right, brought to them in their household. And so then you have to look based on that. Now, what is the value of this service? And what I've come to realize is, in many times when we don't charge what we're worth, it actually does a disservice to other people. It's not just like, oh, I'm disservicing myself. It's like, no, it's also a disservice to other people, because a lot of times when people don't give the value for what they're receiving, a lot of times they start to not see the worth in that thing that they're receiving. And They end up, and it just ends up going away, right? They end up losing it because they never saw the value in it, and it was not placed on the pedestal that it should have been placed on. And so, man, I love that. That's so awesome. And it's so exciting, right, to hear that story of how you rolled through. But that was, you said, 8 years ago, right?
Right.
So now you have built this up to where at that time you start to see your worth, but now you're in a position where not only do you see your worth, but you see the worth of it as a viable business solution to a problem that many parents, many households have. What led you on that journey, and how did you now get to the point to where you start to really establish this thing as a business entity?
Right. So I think for me, so what started that was when I had to transition from that family. The children had started kindergarten. So I transitioned because I still needed full time. I transitioned to newborn twins. They were fresh out, 2 days home from the hospital. I started with them. I was with them until they were 2. I did triplets at one point, triplet toddlers. So I had all these different levels of care under my belt. And every time I was leaving families to go on to the new thing that God had for me, I realized I was leaving the family with a lack. And so I remember when I was leaving the newborn twins, the mom was like, listen, I know that you need better pay. I'm so sorry we can't afford to give you what you need. But if I'm gonna be honest, I need a you that's not physically you. I need Annecey. If we could copy and paste you, that's what we need.
All right.
And I'm thinking I'm trying to think, okay, who do I know that's a great nanny and all of this stuff. And I feel like that was the seed that God planted, to where he was like, they want you. So figure out a way to give them you. And that's when I started my business, which is my nanny agency, where I not just have nannies under me, but I train nannies to literally be me when I'm not there. So that I pray, my goal in my business is that the nannies that I take care of. So the main part of my business that really sets me apart from other agencies is that because of the God in me, not me, again, because of the God in me, there were just lacks that I started realizing there were in families, because most nannies and babysitters, they focus on the care of the child, mostly the physical and the sometimes emotional well-being of the child. But I realized that for my business, and for me, when I am a nanny, I focus on the emotional, I focus on the physical, I focus on the spiritual and the mental aspects of taking care of the child. And that is an avenue that really wasn't touched, that you're not just taking care of the child, but you're emotionally there for the child's needs, that you're mentally there for the child's needs, that spiritually, that when the family's going through something, I have had families ask me for prayer, and they knew that they could. And so that was where I was like, okay, that separates me, because there's not anybody doing that. And so that's where I began to train people to not just take care of children, but to be there for families. And because of, I'm in school to be a marriage, family, and child therapist. And so I literally, God is using all that is transpiring today to literally prepare me. But at the midst of me using this period to be prepared for the future, he's also using what I'm learning in school for the future to work right now for families. And so the therapy, the counseling, the ability to be there for families that I'm learning in school, while being able to separate yourself and have boundaries, I'm able to instill that into my business and train the women that care for children under me to do the same thing.
Hey man, that's awesome. And what's the name of your business?
It's called ABC Nanny Agency.
ABC Nanny Agency. So
Yeah.
where'd you get the name? It's like the ABCs of nannies.
Right. So I always, especially because I work with kids, I think the natural assumption is like, oh, ABC is like blocks and letters and stuff.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that actually is part of it. But another part of it is that my sister's name is Bianca and our last name's Cadet. And so what we wanted to do at what point, and hopefully is our plan, is that we wanted that business to be almost our franchise. So it would be Annecey, Bianca, Cadet agencies. And so it's the ABC, but also the ABC in childcare. And so it's kind of like a combination of the two.
Wow, that's nice. That's coming, right? The ABC agency, you guys, the franchise is coming. You guys want to get connected with Annie early, okay?
I'm
you know what I'm saying? You want to get connected early. Don't come in late. Okay, you come in late, you're gonna get the late price. You come in early, get the early price. So no, that's so awesome. So how many nannies do you have? How many nannies have you trained up to this point? And also, how many nannies do you have that are now working under that ABC moniker?
Okay, so for training, I have done, I want to say about almost 30. I think the number right now is 27 people that I've trained that have just done classes with me, and that's its own separate fee. The nannies that I have under me right now, I have 3 nannies specifically under me that work for me in my agency. So yeah, at one point it was combined, but I ended up just separating it, and training is different than actually working for my business. So at the moment, praise God, I'll take what I get. I have three people who work under me.
No, that's awesome. You know what I mean? And it's awesome that you have that opportunity to train. And with that training, I know you talk about going through all the different needs, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional needs of really being able to be a nanny, and kind of add this specific level of expertise that you find out like, hey, this is my specific thing that gives me a difference, right, in the market than other people are bringing. Also, as a part of that training, are you helping them to go about of how to acquire their own clientele as well? Because that's something that also is just popping in my mind. I'm just like, okay, how do I find clients, right? If I want to be in this world and in this space, what is that process? Is that something that you also assist them in doing when you as a part of the training?
Right, I do actually. If that's what at the time they're desiring. So a lot of the people who came to me, they've come just to sharpen their skills and try to figure out different avenues of meeting needs for families, but they already have a family. But then there are others that they come because clients as well. So I have families that come to me because they need nannies, and then I have nannies who need to find families. And so I just try to combine the two. Sometimes the hours don't always work because it really depends on the family. Sometimes they're looking for very specific hours, but then I just try to figure out a way to best provide, to best link families. And I think for me, like the training aspect of it is kind of where I think if like God is still working with me, because it's something that I'm still figuring out. It gets a little confusing at times, I guess is the right word I could use, because of the fact that I move from the ability that God is moving in me. But then it's kind of hard to train people to have that spiritual discipline. That's where I'm kind of like running into things, but it's just like just letting God work out certain things, because yeah, like there are different needs. There are some nannies that I have that are great at the emotional, but they have less of a personality that's like, how can I pray for you? How can I be there for you? Versus there are some nannies that they just are so multifaceted, and they can bring everything to the table. So it's just about finding and training people to the best of what they bring to the table. Because one of the things that I have realized is that as much as I wanted to train copycat me's, nobody's me. That's a blessing, but it's also something that I had to realize, because I can't be expecting that someone is bringing the exact cookie cutter version of me. They have talents and blessings that God is using them in also, and just kind of working to the best of my ability with each person.
That's good. So so these are one-on-one trainings or individual trainings that you're doing?
I have done individual. Usually they're individual just because of need. Like sometimes it's just a nanny who needs to meet with me on a Sunday. There was one time that I did 3, because it was 3 nannies who were friends, and I just did it all at once. But usually it is one-on-one.
Gotcha. One-on-one. Look, if you are out there, man, look, if you want to get connected, because right now you're getting one-on-one training with ABC Agency, you know what I'm saying? Miss Annie herself. So like I said, you guys want to get in, before this franchise get on and popping, so you can get your services up, figure out how to get connected with your clientele, and then provide them with a level of service that is next level, right? So what I want to do right now is just take a moment. We're gonna pay some bills here real quick, right? But after we pay these bills, I want you to just think about, for some people who are interested in this industry, in this space, right? What are some tips or some things that you would tell them that they need to consider as they're getting started and moving into this space? So, I want you to kind of have a second to kind of think on that question, right? And then we're just gonna pay some bills real quick. So this podcast is actually brought to you by Tent Makers 101. Tent Makers 101, where Christian principles fuel business practices. You may say, well, am I a tent maker? Yes, you are a tent maker if you have a gift, if you have a talent, a product, a service, any type of business that is seeking to follow in Jesus's footsteps and meet the needs of the community so you can impact them with the everlasting gospel, then that means you are a tent maker. And we're meeting on Facebook with other entrepreneurs in order to foster growth, collaboration, and strategic partnerships for increasing your brand awareness and your revenue. Okay. We truly believe every business is a ministry. When you accomplish God's purposes for you in the world in the form of products and services that provide true value to your particular audience, then guess what? You are truly successful. So please don't wait. Join us now over at Facebook at Tent Makers 101 Biblical Entrepreneurship. So Annie, we want you to close us out, right? What are some things that people need to consider? What are some tips that you want to give them as you're helping to guide them and saying, like, man, I love kids as well. I've always thought about a nanny, right? But I thought that I couldn't maybe take care of myself, or maybe it was only a part-time type of thing. What are some tips or things that they should consider to help them know that, okay, it's something that you can do full-time that can fully take care of yourself and all your needs, your family needs, but you need to consider these things?
I would say definitely, first off, there's a difference between a love for kids and the ability to actually be there and provide care for the kids. So I would definitely if you're a Christian, especially, I would definitely pray about it, because as much as there are beautiful, beautiful days with the children, there are trying days as well. There sure are. And so I would definitely make sure that this is an avenue that it's not just about what you care about and what you want to do, but it's definitely an avenue that God is leading you to. But other than that, I would say it is a great underrated field. It is a slept on field, because like my first mentor taught me, nannies bring so much to the table. They are the needle going through the family, because what I guarantee you, a day that a nanny is not there, the way that nannies work with scheduling, the way that nannies have the ability to just, when they really get to know your kids, look at them and get them back in line without saying a word. Like, there's just certain stability, truly is the biggest word, stability, that nannies bring to families. And with that alone, you are able to ask for your worth. You truly are. And in my field specifically, I'm more of a higher end luxury nanny. But even in just working as a nanny for families, there are so many families that are in need, especially during COVID. This is your time. There are a lot of families who no longer want their children exposed to being with 9, 10, 12, 12 babies. Under 2, the ratio is 1 to 4. Your newborn, you can put your newborn in daycare immediately, but they are competing with between 1 and 4 other children per class. So that ability to, that one-on-one care, that ability that your child is focused, that their child gets that one-on-one attention, that immediate stimulation when they cry, you're not juggling between 4. You bring a lot to the table. And I would say, walk into those rooms, ask for your worth, know your worth, and know that this is an avenue that not just you can make money in, but God can use you. God can really open doors, use you to turn families. There's that verse, although it's talking about the wife being able to be the one to turn her family all towards God, regardless of her husband and children not being believers. I truly believe in a way that God uses nannies for the same thing. You don't have to walk into rooms and say that you are a Christian in order for God to use you. The love that you give those children, the way that you talk to them, the patience level, when they are bouncing off the walls and you are still able to use a clear tone, a calm tone, they see Jesus in you. You don't have to say anything. And I would say that if you see yourself in those characteristics, I would say that nannying is definitely for you. Call me up. I got some clients waiting for you, and let's get this thing going, because God is ready to move. Families
Yes.
are definitely spiritually, I would say, like, being attacked, and God is trying to place his little soldiers ready to be there for him. And so come on and be one of my soldiers.
Amen. Amen. So how can people get in contact with you, right? Because somebody right now is like, you know what? This is exactly what I need. She got the training. She actually got clients as well. Like, this is all one full package. So 1, how long is the training period, right? And then 2, how can people get in contact with you?
So the training can be between 1 and 3 classes. It really depends on exactly how much. I would say if you're a new nanny and you've never worked with kids, it definitely is the 3. But if you're a nanny who just wants to sharpen their skills, just wants to learn some more things about it, 1 to 2 should be fine. And the way to get in contact with me, I would say the best bet is through Instagram. I'm actually working on getting an Instagram page going for my actual business, but right now you can contact me at Annecey, ANNECEY _Elizabeth. That's my Instagram handle, and that's the way clients contact me. That's the way nannies have contacted me for work, and I'm pretty good about answering on time.
All right, awesome. So we're going to actually put that link right into the description. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, it will be in the description. So definitely get in touch with Annie, right, and talk to her. Man, look, we got people ready for you. We got people ready for. Where else can you go where the clients are already ready for you as soon as you're done with training? Not a lot of places you can do that at. So definitely get in contact with Annie, right? And I want to just thank you again, Annie, for coming and joining us here at the Lion and the Lambo podcast. We talk about biblical entrepreneurship. We talk about impact and true success. You are truly a biblical entrepreneur, and I know the Lord is going to continue to use you for great things. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please reach out to me if you have any individual, any person that you say, man, this is a biblical entrepreneur. They need to share their story. They need to share the impact that they're having on the Lion and Lambo podcast. Then definitely reach out to me at info@lionandthelambo.com. That's info@lionandthelambo.com. You also can reach out on Instagram too. That's @lionandthelambo. And yeah, let's get in touch and let's share our story with the world. Y'all have a good evening.